What's up, guide hunters? If you are trying to survive your shifts in Anomaly Cafe, you need to do more than just cook food and serve customers. Strange creatures, disturbing faces, and unusual events can appear during your shift. So today I will explain the currently known anomalies, how you can recognize them, and what you should do when you find one. The first thing you need to remember is that anomalies are not always obvious at first glance. Some can be recognized by a strange face, some only become noticeable through the camera system, and others are identified by unusual behavior. Once you know what to look for, checking the cafe becomes much easier. Let's start with the regular anomalies. One of the easiest things to learn is that many of these anomalies change the appearance of characters, especially their faces. So when you are checking customers, do not only look at their clothes or bodies. Take a moment to look closely at their faces as well. The meat anomaly, also known as Meat Man, looks completely different from the normal cute creatures you usually see around the cafe. Instead of looking like a regular character, it can appear as raw meat or a skinned carcass. If you notice something that looks like raw meat or a strange carcass where it should not be, that unusual appearance is the main clue you should pay attention to. Another anomaly you may encounter is the eye ghost. This one can be spotted through the cafe cameras and appears as a strange white ghost with a single eye and a mouth positioned on top of its body. When you are checking the camera views, pay attention to characters that look completely different from the normal visitors. The one-eye anomaly is a little easier to recognize because of its most obvious feature. It has one large eye positioned in the center of its face. If you are checking customers and notice a character with a single large eye replacing the usual facial features, you should pay close attention because this can indicate the anomaly. Hollow eyes has another very noticeable facial change. This anomaly has two large, empty-looking eyes, but there is no visible nose or mouth. The face is the important clue here, so make sure you are actually looking at the entire face when checking customers, instead of only looking at their clothing or body. Then we have Creepy Smile. This anomaly has two white eyes and a large, unnatural smile that looks very different from a normal customer. If you notice this strange combination of eyes and a creepy smile, it is a good reason to pay attention and check whether you are dealing with an anomaly. Angry Face is a little less certain than some of the others. It has black eyes positioned inside dark holes and an open mouth with visible teeth, which makes it look very unusual. However, the available information suggests that this one may not actually be an anomaly, so you should keep that in mind instead of automatically reporting every unusual-looking face. Some anomalies are much easier to notice when you use the cameras. Camera looking is one example, because the unusual behavior is connected specifically to the camera system. This anomaly can appear to be looking directly at you through the camera, so when you move between camera views, watch for characters that seem to interact with or stare through the camera in an unusual way. There can also be visual bugs with this anomaly. For example, the ears may sometimes appear in their normal position, so do not assume that every small visual difference means the anomaly has disappeared. Focus on the overall behavior and appearance instead. Another camera-based anomaly is the head-banging anomaly. Instead of having one specific facial feature that gives it away, this one is identified by its behavior. If you notice a character repeatedly banging its head against objects in a strange way, that unusual movement can indicate that an anomaly is present. Now let's move on to the unique anomalies, because these work a little differently. Some of them can appear because of specific actions during the shift, while others can appear randomly. The three important examples here are Spore Fly, Coffee Monster Buno, and Flamme. Spore Fly is particularly important because it can interfere directly with food preparation. When it appears, it starts spreading spores onto food that players are preparing. This means you do not want to simply ignore it and continue working, because it can keep causing problems for your kitchen. If Spore Fly appears in your cafe, you can remove it using either a pan or a talisman. Grab one of these items and use it to eliminate the anomaly. Spore Fly can spawn randomly during the day, so there is no specific action you need to perform to make it appear. Because it can affect prepared food, reacting quickly is useful. If you notice it while your team is cooking, deal with it rather than letting it remain in the kitchen. The next unique anomaly is Coffee Monster, also known as Buno. This one is connected to the coffee making mini-game, and specifically targets the player who is making the coffee. When Buno appears, it attaches itself to that player's face. This blocks part of their vision and also drains their sanity, which can make it harder to continue working normally. So if you see a teammate suddenly dealing with Buno, you should know that the effect is not just visual. Luckily, Buno is not permanent. Other players can help remove it from the affected player, or the player can simply wait a few seconds because Buno will eventually disappear by itself. So there is no need to panic when it appears. There is also a way to reduce the chance of triggering Buno. It has a chance to appear when a player performs poorly during the coffee making minigame. So when you are preparing coffee, try to complete the minigame properly. The final unique anomaly in this guide is Flamme. There is an important detail here, because Flamme is currently not active in the game while its AI and sound effects are being worked on. However, its intended mechanics are still useful to know for when it becomes available again. Flamme is a fire-related anomaly connected to the kitchen. When it appears, the fire alarm starts ringing and part of the kitchen catches fire. If you walk into the burning area, your sanity will begin to decrease. The intended way to deal with Flamme is to use a fire extinguisher. You need to use it on the flames to put out the fire and remove the anomaly. Flamme can appear when a player burns pancakes or waffles, so cooks should be especially careful when preparing these foods once the anomaly is active again. So how can you become faster at finding anomalies in general? The easiest thing you can do is stop looking for every tiny difference and instead focus on the obvious visual and behavioral clues. Strange eyes, unusual mouths, missing facial features, strange camera behavior, and unusual movements can all help you identify something that does not belong. You should also make regular use of the camera system, because some anomalies are much easier to notice there. Camera looking and the head banging anomaly are good examples of situations where watching character behavior can be more important than simply checking their appearance. It is also important to communicate with your teammates. If one player notices something unusual, tell the others as quickly as possible. This is especially useful when an anomaly can interfere with cooking or affect another player's sanity. You should also remember which items are useful against specific anomalies. A pan or talisman can remove Spore Fly, while a fire extinguisher is intended to deal with Flamme. Buno is different because another player can help remove it, or you can simply wait a few seconds for it to disappear. If you are playing as the checker, your job is not just to look at customers as quickly as possible. You need to actually learn the patterns. Once you become familiar with the strange faces, camera events, and unusual behaviors, you will be able to recognize problems much faster. At the same time, do not assume that every strange-looking character is automatically an anomaly. Angry Face is a good example because its status is currently uncertain. Taking a moment to understand what you are seeing is better than immediately making the wrong decision. The most important thing is to remember that different anomalies require different reactions. Regular anomalies are mainly about recognizing unusual appearances and behavior. Spore Fly can interfere with food, Buno affects the player who is making coffee, and Flamme creates a dangerous fire in the kitchen when it is active. Once you understand these differences, Anomaly Cafe becomes much easier to manage. You can keep checking customers, watch the cameras for strange behavior, react quickly when unique anomalies appear, and communicate with your team instead of trying to handle everything alone. Keep in mind that some anomaly names are unofficial, and that certain anomalies can change as the game receives updates. Flamme is also currently inactive, so its mechanics may become relevant again once its AI and sound effects are finished. For now, focus on learning the visual clues, remembering the important items, and paying attention to what is happening around the cafe. The faster you recognize something that does not belong, the easier it becomes to keep your shift under control. If this Anomaly Cafe guide helped you recognize the different anomalies and understand how to deal with them, hit that like button and subscribe for more Roblox guides. Good luck with your next shift, and keep your eyes open, because you never know what might appear in the cafe.